Typically, the A series pixels are super easy to recommend because they provide a nice set of features at a good price. But the Pixel 7a might not be as great a value as its predecessor. Even when we just look at price, it's $499, which is $50 more than the Pixel 6a was when it was released. And that's $100 less than the Pixel 7. So now you're probably asking yourself, what are we getting this year that we didn't get last year? And are we getting enough to where we shouldn't just upgrade to the Pixel 7? So let's talk about it. From a design standpoint, this is very clearly a Pixel. It has a very familiar look and feel. We're getting metal sides, a plastic back, and the pill-shaped camera module is housed within the visor so the phone doesn't wobble when it's flat on your desk. This visor is visibly smaller than the one on the Pixel 7. It's both shorter and it doesn't stick out as much. It also doesn't seamlessly blend into the side, and you can feel the edge if you run your finger across it. Now, in terms of how it feels to actually hold and use the Pixel 7a, if you run your finger from the back to the side, it's very smooth. If you go from the side to the back, you can actually feel a little edge. And this is actually the opposite of what you get on the Pixel 7. On the 7, if you go from the back to the side, you feel more of a pronounced edge. But if you go from the side to the back, it's smooth. So it really just comes down to which one you would notice more. And then another transition you're going to notice as you use the phone is going from the screen itself to the edge of the screen. And that's actually smoother on the Pixel 7a, whereas on the Pixel 7, there's more of a raised edge. Now, overall, the Pixel 7a feels super solid, especially for a phone at this price range, has Gorilla Glass 3 on the front, and we're getting an IP67 rating instead of IP68 on the Pixel 7. Even though both phones are about the same size, the display on the Pixel 7a is a bit smaller. You got 6.1 inches versus 6.3 inches. The bezels are a little thicker, but we're getting the same resolution, same aspect ratio, and a slightly higher pixel density. The display was also upgraded to 90 Hz this time. It's one of the two notable upgrades that probably contributed to the higher price. And by the way, quick note, 90 Hz is disabled by default. So just head over to settings, display, and then enable smooth display. Like, you'll immediately notice the difference. The phone is going to feel faster and more responsive. So for me, that's definitely the way to go. If on the other hand, you want to prioritize battery life, then make sure that you turn this feature off, and we'll come back to battery later on. Now, as far as colors, we're getting 4 options: snow, charcoal, sea, and coral. The review unit that Google sent over was snow, but I absolutely love the coral color, and I think that's the one that I would go with myself. Now, even though it's much less expensive than the Pixel 7 Pro, we're still getting the same powerful Tensor G2 chip, and then all the software goodness that Google has to offer. Now, if you watch my Pixel 7 Pro review or comparisons, you know that it's very clear that Google is going all in on software. So you have Material You, which checks out your wallpaper and then gives you options to have the system colors match it. The voice recorder app is so good, and it now has speaker labels, so it automatically tracks who's saying what and then separates it for you. Direct My Call shows you a pressable menu, so you don't have to wait for the automated system to go through each one. Clear Calling enhances the other caller's voice and reduces background noise. And of course, Google Assistant is very good in general, and I love smart features like call screening and hold for me. But what about the camera system? Now, here we're actually seeing some meaningful changes when we compare with the Pixel 6a, and we're also starting to see an area where there is separation with the Pixel 7. The main camera is 64 megapixels instead of 12 megapixels on the Sony IMX363 on the Pixel 6a. And this is an area where Google obviously decided that it was time to do something new, rather than staying with a proven but aging camera module. And keep in mind that even though the sensor is 64 megapixels, you can't actually get a 64 megapixel file on the Pixel 7a if you're using Google's camera app. So whether you shoot JPEG or RAW, the image is binned down to 16 pixels, but that's not to say that there are no advantages to the larger sensor. It's still capturing more light, it naturally gives us a shallower depth of field, and combining groups of 4 pixels also lets the software reduce more noise. Now, together with the main camera, we're getting a 13 megapixel ultra-wide, which is actually wider than the Pixel 6a. And then there's a 13 megapixel selfie camera. And again, we're seeing an upgrade in terms of resolution from the Pixel 6a. I'll leave the side-by-side comparisons to my more detailed review because I know not everyone is a camera nerd like me, but let's look at some images in the context of this being a $500 phone. Overall, I think the Pixel 7a takes very good pictures. There's good dynamic range, although not quite as good as the higher end models. The colors look great. There's definitely a good amount of processing, just like with every other brand. And you can see that the software is able to bring out details in the shadows and then maintain details in the highlights. There is no true macro mode, and to give you a sense of what you could do, this was as close as I could get before it couldn't focus. Now, the selfie camera, again, is good. We're getting sharp images with good skin tones, definitely images that I would be happy with for a $500 phone. The ultra wide, like I said, is wider than the Pixel 6a. You can definitely notice distortion. It has some of that fisheye look. Now, how much this matters is really a personal choice, but I think it'll be interesting to see the side-by-sides in my detailed comparisons. And when you're shooting video, you're getting 4K 60 from the main camera, 4K 30 from the other cameras. The image quality is pretty good, but the higher end models have better stabilization and better low light performance. It's also going to be interesting to see if we get any camera improvements with some software updates. Speaking of software updates, we're looking at 3 years, which is okay, but not leading by any means, which is kind of nuts, you know, because they make the phone, the chip, and the operating system. I'm just saying. Now let's get to the battery. So we're getting a 4,385 milliamp hour battery, which is slightly smaller than the one on the 6A, but we're also getting the newer, more powerful, and more efficient Tensor G2 chip. So that should help with battery life. When it comes to charging, we're looking at 18 watts wired charging, so not super fast, and then 7.5 wireless charging, which is also not super fast. And I come back to this being a $500 phone where there's always going to be some give and take. Personally, charging speed is not my top priority because I have plenty of opportunities to charge my phone throughout the day, but let me know what you think. I have my display settings set to 90 Hertz, and I got about 3.5 to 4.5 hours of screen on time based on how I used it. I've had this review unit for a while now. I typically end each day with about 5 to 10%. I had one day where it died on me right as I was going to bed. Again, this is me never charging the phone throughout the day, which would pretty much never happen in real life. The fingerprint sensor worked fine. It's not as fast as the ultrasonic sensor that I have on some of my flagship phones, but overall, it was pretty reliable. Haptics were actually pretty good. I liked the amount of feedback that I got, but again, probably not as good as the higher end Pixels. Which begs the question, should you get this phone or should you get something like the Pixel 7 where you have better haptics, better speakers, glass on the back, a better camera system, faster charging, slightly better thermal performance for gaming, and an IP68 rating? The answer might come down to price because depending on when you're watching this video, one or both of these phones could be on sale, so keep an eye out for the detailed comparison. Now you should check out this flagship comparison. Click on my face to subscribe. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.